You are now listening to the Lance Scurv Show, the boldest spot on internet radio.
Why do you think they came after me the way they came after me? And it was inside the church that came after me to do me the most damage, to kill me. You know why? Let me tell you why. Because when I became a Christian, I made covenants with Yahweh. Yahweh's covenant is this. When you make a covenant with Yahweh, what does Jesus tell you? To get to God, you got to suffer. And you will lose your life. That is the covenant I made. And when I was like, what the hell are these church people doing? And I prayed to the universe said, it's those goddamn covenants you made. When you tell the universe and you obey Jesus and Yahweh, and he said, you obey that when Jesus says that you will suffer for his name, those entities listen and do it to perform it. Are you there?
Wow.
What did Jesus say? Anyone who follows me shall do what? They'll suffer and die. Be humiliated and rejected. They said it's those covenants that you made. You got to understand that. These covenants are real. Take up your cross and follow me of a life and suffering and sin. I said, are you serious? I said, oh, hell no, this is not for me. Then they began to show me. The universe broke the code of the Bible in front of me and began to show me about the blood sacrifice. I said, what the hell? I said, you need to tell me. They said, this is what it is.
And I want you,
the Old Testament.
I want you to make the analogy again earlier before I started recording this about the cannibalism, about, eat of my flesh, about how they speak about African spirituality is something wrong, but they push Christianity as being the right thing. And go back over what you said about the rabbi who spoke about the flesh, all that about the, human flesh in your intestines, all of that stuff. And then just flow after that, because those are the key points that froze me righteously when you said it. It makes sense.
I'm ready.
Go ahead. It's flowing.
Listen, there's a rabbi, Rabbi Finkelstein. You can find it on YouTube. And he said, that they don't eat human flesh. All they want is simply the blood of the human. Because what they need to get rid of their sins is blood, not flesh. So they drain the blood of the sacrifice. But they don't like to wait. So this rabbi says what they do with the flesh of the human is they sell it to certain companies after they perform the human sacrifice. They sell the flesh of certain companies, and those companies take the human flesh and put it into food, and that's what you eat. And let me tell you where they're getting this from. They're following the laws of Yahweh. I know a lot of Christian people are going to say, no, you're misinterpreting. Let me tell you the real history of what you believe in. Yahweh, when Yahweh showed up on the scene, these are people who study the history of religion, not the soothsayers that tell you the madness they tell you. No, these are the real people who study your religion. Yahweh was not the only entity. He was one of many so-called gods in that region. And all these gods were always fighting for power. And all these gods had specific ways to sacrifice unto them. Those of you, let me give you an example. Let's say you practice ancient African spirituality before Christianity and Islam. You have a pantheon of gods. Each god wants a different sacrifice. And the sacrifice that you do to them, you can perform it the same way when you're sacrificing to another god. It was the same thing with Yahweh. Yahweh did not like his sacrifice being passed through fire, because his sacrifice The proper way to sacrifice unto Yahweh was blood shed. It was not burning the offering in a fire, okay? A complete burning. There was some offerings that he wanted burnt in a fire. These are the people, listen, these are the people who studied. And what, before Yahweh became the one true God, I'll explain to you the history. The people who followed Yahweh were called the cult of Yahweh. The cult of Yahweh. Okay? The cult of Yahweh. And they were called a cult because they practiced the same way. When the people at the time who followed Yahweh saw that they could get geopolitical power, they consolidated Yahweh into being the one supreme God. This is why in Genesis, your Bible says, let us make man in our image. That is the literal translation. Who is us? You would say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. No. The Elohim, I am at the end, is plural for many gods.
Mm-mm.
En means God. Im at the end, the original Hebrew, is many gods. Those of you who don't believe me, go to listen to Mauro Biglino. Mauro Biglino. This person is the #1 Vatican translator who translates the original text, not the King James Version that I used to believe. No, the original text. And he knows how to speak Greek, and he knows how to speak Hebrew, and he knows Latin. Okay? He said, when you look at the text carefully, he said Yahweh in the text, it says carefully, Yahweh was an alien, not a god. And he was one of many aliens of the Elohim, the pantheon of God. And they all had their different ways of sacrificing. The historians who study religion, all ancient religions, you can go look this up. I will find you the articles and send it to you. Yahweh's main sacrifice was child sacrifice. Many of you are going to say that is a lie because Yahweh clearly said, don't sacrifice children. And Yahweh said, do not sacrifice the children to Moloch.
And how many missing kids are there now? Just to throw it in there?
800,000 missing children every single year.
And so is this worldwide or is this in America?
This is just America alone.
And why isn't there...
And most of the countries... Sorry.
Right. No. I just want to make the correlation. We know who owns the media.
Mm-hmm.
And if this was 800,000 of those kids, which I don't think there's that many, but there would be an outcry. But I believe the majority of those might be us because we, or not them, put it that way. And
you believe the majority of them might be us? Might? Do you know that in the United States,
saying it sarcastically,
when black children go missing, it got so bad in certain towns of missing black children that black parents got so fed up of them not posting on the Amber Alert missing black children, they have to create their own alert system. It's called the Ebony Alert. Because they refuse to report the amount of missing black children.
Well, you know what?
They only reported the missing white children.
If in my presence I see a little kid getting snatched up in a van or a car or whatever have you, it's all out war. it's all out war. If
Okay.
that's not their parent, which I'm going to assume that it's not, when you can tell by the body language of a child, it's all out war. It's all out war. It's not about calling the police, whatever. And I want everybody who's going to hear this, keep your eyes open. Because when I was about, I don't know whether I was 3 or 4 or what, I don't know what age I was. My mother told me we were in the subway in Manhattan, and I was standing next to her. She had my hand. It was a crowded day down there. For a split second, she had to reach into a purse. She had the purse in her left hand, the pocketbook of the purse. So she had to reach into it. So I'm standing right next to her. She could feel me next to her. She let my hand go to put her hand in, reached for my hand again within a second or two. And there was a white woman walking with me and walking away with me in the crowd. And she said, wait. Yep. When she ran, and the woman picked me up and started running. And when my mother ran her down, she dropped me and ran for her life. It didn't hurt me as much when she dropped me, but my mother had to check me to see, and that gave her enough time to walk away. She said the woman was so white. That's weird. And in my dreams as a child, there was always, we lived in Manhattan for the first 5 years of my life. We were in an apartment until we moved to Queens and got a house. And in my dreams, there was this white woman who was always in the stairwell. You know, when you walk up the steps in these apartments, you have that half landing, and then you have the next floor. But there was always this white woman who had these jagged teeth. And I know she was evil, but it scared me. And I always saw this. But that combined with a lot of the things that were revealed to me in my life that were supernatural lets me know that there is a different plane, and Christianity ain't explaining it. They want you just to go blindly and accept certain things and just, whenever they don't have an answer, we're not supposed to ask about that. You ask the pastor something, you shouldn't be asking about that. Have faith, and we're being screwed over.
The root of what you believe is enshrouded with blood sacrifice. This is why before Africa got hit with these religions, their religion was know thyself. Meaning, take the time to understand your good side and your bad side and work to overcome your bad side. And they came, and when they conquered African people, they hit them with the biggest witchcraft on the planet, Yahweh. Okay? Before Yahweh became the so-called one true God, which he is not. Yahweh is Lucifer. Yahweh is Lucifer.
You know you're going to get a lot of flack in the comment section for that.
I don't care. Yahweh is Lucifer. Listen to the people who really study this shit instead of you believing it because someone told you it's real or because you had an experience. Ask yourself a question. If I came to you and I said to you, I am God, and I don't show you who I am, would you follow me? You would say absolutely not, because you didn't show me who you were. Right. Why is it that Yahweh refused to show people who he is, but you follow him? Ask yourself these questions, black people. Yahweh refuses to show you who he is, but you follow him? Do you know there are laws in the spirit realm? You do not follow an entity you cannot see, because you don't know what is standing in front of you. Ask yourself, why is it that Yahweh refuses to show who he is? Because no man can stand in his presence. Let me tell you something. If I come to you as a headless dog and I say I am God and I don't show you my face, or if I'm talking to you and I hide my face from you, you would not worship me. Mm-hmm. Because you say, I can worship you. You don't even show me who you are. Or you stand in front of a person and they don't want you to see their eyes. You say, I don't trust this person because they don't want to show me their eyes. I need to connect. I need to know who's standing in front of me. Yes, you follow a God who says clearly, no man has seen my face. Ask yourself certain questions. Ask yourself, why do you need blood to be shed to get rid of sin? Let me ask you a question.
That's something.
Let me ask you a question. You think it's right if I tell you I'm going to eat you and I'm going to drink your blood, what would police and the psychiatry do to me? But yet, your Jesus says, eat my flesh and drink my blood. That is cannibalism and vampirism. That is why they're putting humans in food and having you eat their flesh. You are not supposed to eat anyone's flesh, either spiritually or physically. Do you understand the portals that open when you do this shit? Do you understand that all of Jesus' disciples, all of them who followed him, died? Why do you think about this for a second? Why would a God put you on a planet that is rich? He claimed he created the whole earth. He put gold in the earth, silver in the earth, bauxite, titanium, all of this stuff in the earth, and then tell you, abandon all the gold and the silver you could see and die for him, and then he's going to give it back to you on the other side? Mauro Biglino, the #1 Vatican translator, when he translated the original text, and this is the Vatican now, he discovered, let me tell you what he discovered. A, that Yahweh was Lucifer. B, that he was a straight up alien. That is what the text said. Alien. C, Yahweh introduced cloning. That is why you are seeing all this shit with cloning. Not only that, Yahweh, in order to appease Yahweh, you had to perform, and Yahweh's type of appeasement was blood sacrifice. That is why wherever he showed up, people got genocided.
Wow.
That is why wherever Yahweh showed up, there was wars and there was genocide. Because they are following the text to a T. That is why the Native Americans got exterminated. It was under Yahweh. That is why Africa became enslaved. It was under Yahweh. And Yahweh shifted animal blood sacrifice to what? Human sacrifice. That is why he said, he claimed that he's going to put an end to animal sacrifice and he's going to shift it to the sacrifice of his son. If I were to sacrifice my child, what would the Lord do to me? And that is what he
wouldn't
followed.
see you anymore. You'd be locked away.
Okay. Yeah, but this is what you call a God. This is what you call the supreme God. This is what you call the supreme God. He shifted from animal sacrifice, even though I don't think they were sacrificing animals in the Old Testament, because that same Old Testament at times compared humans to animals. So was it really animals they were sacrificing? Or were they using what they call zoomorphic analogy? When you equate an animal to a human, and there's a lot of zoomorphism in the Bible, where you equate a lamb to a human, a goat to a human, a ram to a human, a bull to a human. Were they sacrificing in the Old Testament animals?
Yep.
Okay, let me give you some scholarly articles you need to read. Okay? Let me give you some. The legacy of child sacrifice in early Judaism and Christianity. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
this is from Haaretz. This is Israel now. This is Israel. Okay, this is not me. Yahweh, Jewish God Yahweh, originated in Canaanite Vulcan, says new theory. The cult of Yahweh. The cult of Yahweh. That is what they were originally called. Before the people said, we can take this God, make him into the supreme God, and then use him for geopolitical control. Okay? Archaeologists uncover remains of an Edomite copper production facility on the so-called Slave Hill in Timnah. Okay, that's something else. Jewish God Yahweh originated in Canaanite Vulcan, says new theory. The cult of Yahweh. This is Haaretz. This is Israel now. The cult of Yahweh as God of metallurgy originated among semi-nomadic copper smelters between the Bronze and Iron Age, suggests biblical scholar. And he was not worshipped only by Jews. The Egyptians retreated from Canaan at the copper mines of Timnah in the Negev, blah, 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 blah. But this is about the cult of Yahweh. Okay? Okay? But I want to find you. Hold on.
Okay. Take your time.
Polytheism and human sacrifice in early Israelite religion. This is Huffington Post. Okay? Okay? Open your eyes to what you wonder why 400 years and Yahweh hasn't done shit for black people. Let me tell you why. He hasn't done shit for black people in 400 years and he never will. Because black people are a sacrifice unto him. He said, I gave Egypt for your ransom. He gave black people as a ransom. Because Egypt was considered the entire continent of Africa, not the country that it is today. You got to see and break these codes that are in the Bible. The Bible is a book of fucking codes. Most people would expect that someone writing about human sacrifice and polytheism in the Bible would be an atheist or agnostic, and yet you described as a very committed Christian. This person, you can read it up about the cult of Yahweh, and this person tells you that they practice human sacrifice for Yahweh. Yahweh is Lucifer. All the shit that you're seeing, the cloning, the microchipping, all of this shit is coming from Yahweh. Listen, this is what the scholar says. Well, as scholars like Frank Cross, Chris Rolston, these are scholars now, Mark Smith and others have demonstrated and have known for some time, the earliest texts in the Hebrew Bible give a strong indication that the early conception of Yahweh was that he was an ancient Near East tribal deity. Listen to this. As I argue in my book, Following Rolston, the Song of Moses in Deuteronomy 32 indicates that Yahweh was believed to have been one of the children of the Canaanite deity El Elyon. These are the scholars who study this. The song describes how the nations were originally formed. And what it says is that the peoples of the earth were divided up according to the number of El Elyon's children, the junior members of the divine pantheon. And Yahweh was a son of El Elyon, not the Most High God. Yahweh, Israel's patron deity, was one of Elyon's children. The best evidence suggests that Yahweh did not begin as the only true God of later Jewish monotheism. He did not begin as the creator of the world. Yahweh began as a young, up-and-coming tribal deity whose prowess among other gods mirrored Israel's aspirations vis-a-vis surrounding tribes and nations. As Israel aspired to greatness and sought to make a name for itself, surrounded by vast empires, Yahweh got bigger and bigger until he became so grandiose in their theologies that it no longer made sense to refer to the other national deities as gods at all. So vastly superior was Yahweh to the gods of other nations, according to Judean propaganda literature. Well, as Chris Ralston argues, there are various stages in Israel's progression from polytheism to monotheism. Yahweh begins as a junior member of the divine pantheon. This is the view during the tribal confederation period of Israel's history. After Israel became a monarchy, Yahweh gets a promotion to head of the pantheon, taking his father Elion's place. This parallels similar ideas in Babylonian literature, in which Marduk's ascendancy to king of gods mirrors the rise of the Babylonian Empire. Over time, Yahweh and Elyon are conflated. They sort of merge into one God. At this stage, Yahweh starts to be seen as creator God. But in this period, Israel still believes in other gods. It's just that they're not supposed to worship other gods because they owe their allegiance to Yahweh, their patron deity. Of course, Yahweh was believed to have had a wife, Asherah, and it is clear that Israelites worshipped her as Yahweh's consort. This seems to have been acceptable orthodoxy until the 7th century BCE or so. At that point, prophets like Jeremiah began to polemicize other gods, calling into doubt their very existence. This idea that Yahweh alone is God is solidified during the Babylonian exile in the 6th century for a complex set of reasons. This is when official Israelite religion finally became monotheistic. And early on, get this, the chosen people practiced, guess what? Human sacrifice.
There you go.
Let's hear it. What's your evidence? Well, the evidence is complex, and I lay much of it out in my book. But the short version is that human sacrifice was a rare but widespread practice in ancient Near East religion. No wonder why they're always killing each other in that region. And there is evidence that until about the 7th and 6th century BCE, it was an acceptable part of Israelite and Judean religion as well. Why are you surprised that every time black people go up into these countries, what happens to them? They get sold into slavery or they get their organs stolen. Let me repeat myself.
No doubt about that.
Why is it that every time black people enter these specific regions, they get sold into slavery or their organs stolen? Anyway, there's the story of the near sacrifice of Isaac by his father Abraham. It is popularly believed that because an angel prevented Abraham from killing his son at the last moment, the story constitutes a condemnation of child sacrifice. But that's not the case. Isaac is feared not because human sacrifice is seen to be immoral, but because Isaac was the child of promise and needed to survive. In reality, listen to what the historians who read the doctrines, study the culture, and know what they're talking about, listen to what they say. In reality, the account depends upon the logic of human sacrifice because Abraham is praised. He was praised for his willingness to kill his own son to appease Yahweh. It was not prevented because God didn't believe in human sacrifice. He wanted to know, would you perform the human sacrifice if I demanded you to do it? Because human sacrifice in the early cult of Yahweh demanded human sacrifice. You want to know where the 800,000 children are disappearing to? It's to these gods. Let me continue. There is evidence that ancient Israelites believed that human sacrifices could be offered to Yahweh in exchange for victory in battle against their enemies. The Israelite warrior Jephthah sacrificed his virgin daughter to Yahweh in fulfillment of a vow he made in order to secure Yahweh's help in battle. I've been in religion and they're going to say, no, the child was consecrated and sent to live in a virgin camp. No, that is not what the original text said. The original text said Jephthah killed her because he made a promise, whatsoever walked out of his house first, he would sacrifice. Do you know what sacrifice means? And she walked out. The same ideology can be seen in some early accounts of the Canaanite conquest, in which Yahweh gives Israelites victories against Canaanite armies, and the Israelites in return, listen to this is Yahweh again, the Israelites in return slaughter all of the women and children in payment to Yahweh for his help. I'm going to go on. There's also evidence that Yahweh commanded human sacrifice in the law of Moses. Later, when the practice of human sacrifice fell into disrepute among the elite circle, the prophet Ezekiel confirms that Yahweh commanded human sacrifice, but interprets that command as a form of punishment for Israel's disobedience. Ezekiel needed a way to deal with that tradition found in Exodus 22, and did so by claiming that Yahweh ordered them to kill their firstborn sons as a way of getting back at them for their lack of faith in him. Obviously, Ezekiel's solution to the problem was problematic in itself, but at least we can thank him for helping to put an end to the institution of child sacrifice in Israel's religion. I've heard evangelicals explain that the reason God prescribed scorched earth policies in the Old Testament was because the surrounding nations were so evil that it is child sacrifice. God sent warnings, they didn't heed them. Is this just a desperate attempt to justify the unconscionable? Yeah, well, that justification is in the Bible itself, in texts that were written or edited after the institution of child sacrifice fell into disrepute. But the reality is that Israelites practiced child sacrifices too. As I argue in chapter 6 of my book, the real motivation for the conquest, exterminating Native Americans and enslaving black people, were much more nefarious. It had more to do with land and the consolidation of political power than anything else. Now, where do we see that land theft, the genocide that follows, the consolidation of power, and the imposing of an external political belief? Let me tell you, all of the continent of Africa and all of the Americas. Wouldn't most Christians and Jews find this shocking? Of course, and rightly so. It is shocking. I was shocked. But what I find even more shocking is the fact that some believers go to such great lengths, listen to this, to try to defend these genocides and moral atrocities. The same people who preach against the evils of abortion in the name of absolute objective morality throw their absolute objective morality out the window in order to defend child murders 800,000 missing children in the United States every year, and those numbers could be more because the news media refuses to acknowledge the missing black children of an ancient tribe who thought they were doing the, guess what, will of God. That's what's most shocking to me. I was raised that the Bible was the literally perfect, inerrant word of God. What you are saying sure calls into question this point of view. I was raised to view the Bible in the same way, and it was my faith in the Bible that led me to study it. My confidence in its veracity is it's critically, not spiritually, not blindly, critically means objectively, assuming it would stand up to the test. Eventually, I had to be honest about the facts and acknowledge that it couldn't stand up. You've been accused of sleeping with the enemy, so to speak. Aren't you just giving ammunition to the enemies of faith? The truth is the truth. I can't change what the truth is. If some groups want to use the truth as ammunition against other groups, that's their prerogative. I think that the truth should be used as ammunition against fundamental varieties of Christianity and Zionist Judaism, because such strands of faith wreak so much havoc on the world, bombing Iraq, bombing Syria, bombing Libya, enslaving African people for 400 years, and exterminating 200 million Native Americans. If believers can be blind to something as concrete as polytheism and human sacrifice in the Bible, human sacrifice, you condemn the elite for eating human flesh and drinking human blood. Let me tell you where they got it from. Your Bible. What other cultural fragments may be there with God's name on them? Well, there's no escaping culture, whether it's the ancient culture of Palestinian Judaism or modern culture. All of our knowledge will always be shaped by cultural factors. Many Christians will be surprised to learn that teaching is derived from a standard script that scholars call Jewish apocalyptic. I talk about this in chapter 8 of my book. Jesus' thinking was just as culturally conditioned as every other perspective in and outside the Bible. But that doesn't mean it's useless or irrelevant as a result. Okay? Is this, as Sam Harris called it, the end of faith? One thing that the new atheists and the fundamental Christians share is this: either or logic. Either Christianity is true or it isn't. And if it isn't, then it's useless. I don't buy into that simplistic paradigm. When we're talking about an ultimate truth that may or may not lie beyond the metaphysical iron curtain, we're talking about a truth that is very different from the kinds of truth that can be verified. Okay? The point is this. What you are seeing on the planet today, okay, with all the wars, with all the genocide, with all the murder and the unjust killing and the child sacrifice and the disappearing of children and the eating of children and all this shit, they are practicing. And it's not Christianity to blame, because Christianity got this from Judaism. And Judaism was created by Yahweh. They got this from Yahweh. Yahweh, when he first showed up on the scene, according to Mauro Biglino, the original text says Yahweh was an alien. And Yahweh was not the supreme God. Yahweh was a child of El Elyon, the creator God. And Yahweh was fighting for power in that region. And he demanded human sacrifice. That is why it was constantly go into the land, steal the land, destroy and kill everything there. Men, women, children, animals. Genocide everything that moves. Unto me. Enslave. This is what you're following and you don't know. This is why Yahweh and Jesus has not helped black people in 400 years. Yahweh is the enemy of black people. Yahweh is not your God. Yahweh is your enemy. And I know I'm going to get flack for this, but it's the goddamn truth.
Yep. You're gonna get it, and we're gonna have live subsequent shows that people can call in. But you see, it's
I'm
funny
not
because
talking up my ass.
oh no, I
I am
know.
telling you what the historians have researched. And you who are not a historian and are going to use a scripture to confirm a scripture, which is not the way to do scientific research.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You're going to tell me, but the scripture says this.
No, you know what happens on YouTube? You'll get people who want to bully you into a different thought. So what they do, they'll take a long comment. This is what a lot of them will do. They'll take it's not even a comment. It's like a half a book. And what they do, they'll target a particular video and they'll copy and paste on every other comment on that video. They will take this long thing as though by throwing information at you that favors what they say is doing some type of dialogue. And you'll have these thousands and thousands of words with scriptures and this and that.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what these people do
They'll
all
use
day.
They'll use the scripture to confirm the scripture. And I'm using historical records to confirm my position. I know how they do.
Yeah. And in person, they want to talk over you, get competitive, but without any, but they'll do that. I've had people come on the shows in the past and you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you need to learn. Okay, well, what are you saying? Oh, you need to know. You need to know what you know. Well, what do you know? Well, you need to get the knowledge. But what are you saying? And this is what they do on social media. They're arrested on social media, throwing out stuff to the world, and they get some type of satisfaction. And this is not just those in particular, but many people. And again, and I say this, and I think it's relevant. Social media is like the fly tape of Black consciousness, meaning that we get stuck and repetitious over and over, yelling things at each other, not even communicating, not even learning, but we're just saying things, whether it's instant messages in groups, we just throw stuff out. But we're not doing anything or taking any real action in our lives. And so this is why me personally, I'm really pulling away from all of that. Not that I'm one who has done that, because I've always had shows to feature people. But my thing is like, I'm really tiptoeing out of the ballroom brawl right now of all of this foolishness where people don't listen, they don't research, but they just want to get online and scream things out, look for hits, and close up shop and start all over again, riding the treadmill for another day. I see no sense in that. I'm getting older. I want to do the real stuff. I don't want to be a talking head because, when all is said and done, you'll drop dead and they'll erase everything you ever did, so you waste your time. You know what I mean? So unless it's relevant stuff, well-researched and knowledgeable individuals like yourself, and I'll let people, share their opinions and different things, but within reason, but it's got to be the real stuff. I can't be on this pro-Black circus anymore, where they're regurgitating the same doo-doo that was in the toilet bowl before they got there. And they want to have their Malcolm X moment of being on the podium and saying, yes, oh man, you put it together. You said that, and I never was that. But I kind of find that many people thought I was in that game. I am not in that game. This is what I do as a passion and a labor of love, but it's in competition with nobody. I'm not going to scream at different people because you know what? Most of these people who are copying and pasting these long behind diatribes, they're suffering. They got to get up and go to work later on. There's no truth in what they say because they have not conquered their addiction to this system. You know what I mean? It's just the same thing in a different form. You've lived this. You know this. There are things that we said off of the recording that were very real to me. Instructions, actions to take, things you do off the camera.
Hate Black people.
Go ahead, sister.
Yahweh hates Black people. Yahweh is not Black people. God never was, never. Yahweh hates Black people. Yahweh hates Black people. And I'm going to keep saying it until Black people wake up and really critically look at what they believe. Look at how much energy and time and money they have given to Yahweh. And Yahweh gives them nothing but fucking crumbs and pain and heartache and headache and make them feel good and offer them a little crumb miracle. And when you go to India, we're beaten and treated like shit. When we go to China, we're beaten and treated like shit. Do you know why the Chinese are a superpower today? Do you know why the Chinese is changing the Bible to make Jesus Chinese? Do you know why the Chinese? Because when they got rid of the British, the Chinese went back. The Chinese claim to be atheists. They're not atheists. The Chinese went back to their ancestral gods. And look at what the Chinese ancestral gods have done for them in 30 years. Before Yahweh and Allah came to that continent of Africa, I will read you what the explorers and what the Greek historians said about black people. When black people were worshiping their ancestral gods, it was written by the Greek historians. It was written by the Arab explorers. They were the most beautiful people on the planet. They were well favored of their gods. This is what was historically written. They were well favored by their gods. Their gods favored them. And they are the strongest, most powerful people on the planet. This was prior to Yahweh and Allah hitting that continent. When Yahweh hit and Allah hit, we have been slaves since. When we go into this region, we get treated like slaves. And they will say, oh, because we sinned against Yahweh. We sinned against Yahweh. And Yahweh cursed us. Let me tell you something. When your child does something that you don't want them to do you curse your child? So why do you allow some entity to curse a whole entire group of you? If you make the mistake and you curse your child, you say, oh shit, what the hell did I do? You say, oh my God, and you correct it. Do you curse an entire lineage of people because of one mistake? If I were to speak to my child, I don't have children, but if I had a child and publicly I cursed the child, they call the police on me. Why are you allowing an entity to curse an entire lineage of you? When we go to the Middle East, we're told that fucking slaves were called kafir. And they organ harvest them. When we go to China, we're called slaves and we're called monkeys. When black people wake up to the fact that we worship enemy gods, when the black collective wake up to the fact that we worship enemies as gods, and I pray for the day to come when black people wake up and say we've had enough of these enemy gods and get rid of them, we will be honored and respected among the nations.
Of course.
Are you recording me?
Yes. This is recording. Let me also.
The Chinese in 20-something years, when they got rid of the British, the Chinese became a superpower. The secret to Chinese superpower status is the Chinese They got rid of gods who their ancestors did not worship. This is why the Chinese is taking over Christianity and claiming that Jesus is Buddhist, because they don't want their people to worship an entity that is not an ancestral entity. When the Indians got rid, look at how far India has come. India has a satellite in space and rockets in space and a nuclear program. And India is building itself up to be another superpower. You know why? Because when the Indians got rid of these false gods, you know what the Indians did? They went back to their ancestral gods.
They don't
and
want
yet
us to
half
do.
of Africa is worshiping black people. One set of black people is worshiping one god. Another set of black people is worshiping another god. And the two of them fight. Two black people fight over two gods that don't give a shit about either of us. If those gods cared about us, why is it when black people from sub-Saharan Africa go into Libya, they organ harvest them? Millions of them are dead and buried in Libya. Under the sands of Libya, they're dead, their organs stolen, and they're buried in Libya. You don't want to know what they do to black people in Libya, how they have the men raping their sisters and raping the women and raping the elderly women, and how they keep them in underground prisons in Libya. You don't want to know that in Israel just put a bounty on black people's heads, $9,000 to find every black person in Israel. On the black market. Do you know how much a black body is worth? $20 million dead. Why? And these are the gods you worship. These gods are the enemies of black people. And I pray for the day black people truly study those books and realize what they're worshiping. Those gods are our enemies. They have never been for us. These gods can never be our friend after they enslaved our ancestors and sold them into slavery, raped them, castrated them, gutted them, and sold their organs. And this is what you worship and you claim we're going through this because we sinned against Yahweh. How many of you are living right and this shit is still going on? How many of you living right according to Yahweh's laws and this shit is still going on? You mean to tell me all the people whose organs were stolen from them by these people that worship these gods were living in sin? How many children they kidnapped out of Haiti? When the earthquake struck, it was the Christian charities that were kidnapping children out of Haiti, and they can't find the children. And even the ex-president of Haiti went on news and said as soon as the earthquake struck, the Christian charities moved in, and they said we can't even account for how many Haitian children disappeared. Black people, we are worshiping our enemies. And our enemies are killing us. They are using us for blood sacrifice. And we refuse to see that these gods are our enemies. In the name of their gods, they enslaved our ancestors. And in the name of their gods, they are trafficking us today. And we hold on to these gods for their life. And we claim we are sinned, and that's why this shit is happening. All those people who they organ harvested, they were all sinners. They were all sinners. Open your eyes, black people. These gods are our enemies. And these gods are telling their people to form alliances against us to destroy us off the earth. These gods are telling their people, black people are the enemies and we need to get rid of them. Because these gods never stop with their insatiable blood sacrifice. And the number one sacrifice on their altar are black people. That's why they always have to make black people the boogeyman. Because it is easier when they make black people the boogeyman. It is easier to get the world to form a confederacy to destroy us. When they poison the minds of the people and they say the enemy is black people. The enemy is black people. All the crimes are being committed by black people. Meanwhile, all the crimes in this country, the majority of it is being committed by white people. They lie. Read the statistics, the majority of it. And I posted a comment with the actual FBI statistics, and YouTube deleted it. YouTube deleted the comment when I posted the comment since 2012. And you can go even far back. The majority of crimes in this country are not committed by black people. Yet they lie and they say black people is the problem. 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 When will you wake up and realize these gods are confederates and their plan is to get rid of us? And it is their gods who are whispering these things in their ears. Let me tell you, Hitler worshipped what you call the Vril. These are white, tall, white beings. These tall white beings gave him National Zionism, which is Nazi, N-A-Z-I. N-A stands for national. Z-I is Zionism. These tall whites gave Hitler this concept that the white race was the master race and infected the minds of white people to believe that they're supreme. That is why they refuse to accept responsibility for the hell they unleashed on this planet. Okay? And do you know who funded Hitler and protected Hitler? Do you know who helped Hitler to escape? Catholics. Catholic priests helped Hitler to escape.
Wow.
Do you know who funded Hitler? Jewish Zionist bankers.
But they don't want that out. You put that out there, they want to use the media to smash that. They'll delete you. They'll silence you. Right. But they don't want you saying that. It's like
I didn't say regular Jewish people.
Right.
I said Zionist bankers. Where did they get their theology? That book.
But on code, the regular Jewish people, upon hearing this, will not go further to expose it or allow you to expose it either.
They will not expose it. Just like the white supremacy will not say what we did to this planet was utterly destroyed. They will say, no, what we did to this planet was civilize it.
Right.
Exterminating 200 million people is civilization.
Right. And the so-called good white people don't say anything about it either because they benefit from it.
Because they don't want to get targeted.
Good? Exactly.
They don't want to get targeted. You think they're going to listen? I had white people tell me this is when they realized what they were planning for black people. They said, well, we need to speak about it. I said, listen, sister, shut up. They said, why? They said, no, if this is what they're doing to black people, then we need to speak about it. I said, listen, there's a reason why these whistleblowers don't tell you the plan that they have for black people because they will kill them. Norman Bergman, when he saw the black god, and he talked about the black entities on Saturn that are monitoring Earth very closely because they all know their plan. He had to go into hiding because he let the cat out of the bag. David Icke, I used to listen to, who knows what the British and the Dutch did to black people in South Africa, had the nerve to say black people are genociding white people. I made a video and I said, David Icke, you know damn well you're lying. But I know what happened to you. You cannot tell the truth about what they're doing to black people because you know they'll kill you. Because it's an open secret. But I'm here to tell the world, I don't give a damn. I know what you're doing. And I will tell the world what you're doing. Okay? I know what you're doing. And all the white people who work in black ops, they know. They know about the plan to make Africa white. They know. But they cannot speak about it. Every time they ask these top, high-level black operatives, what is their plan for black people? They all stop. We can't talk about it. We can't talk about it. It's classified. But they don't just want to exterminate black people. Let me tell you black people what they want. They hate you in your black body. But those genes, they want. Do you know? They claim black people have the lowest IQ on the planet. But science has proven that black babies become stronger than all other babies on the planet during the early developmental stages. They say black children, black babies have the smarter, they're stronger. This is early childhood development in all babies on the planet. You see those black genes? Even though they want to get rid of us, they don't want to get rid of us, but get rid of those black genes. They want those genes. They just don't want it in us. Early childhood development. You could go research this under the NIH, National Institute of Health. The scientific evidence has shown black children develop at a much faster rate and they are much stronger. They can't explain how black babies develop. They're sharper, they're smarter, they're stronger than the Chinese, the Caucasians, Arabs, Indians, all the children combined. It's jealousy. Okay? I'm telling you. And yet black people hold on to these gods. Mm-hmm. And these gods are preparing. These gods are preparing a blood sacrifice for black people. And black people are going to be there saying, I am dying for my Jesus. Do you know what it means when they tell you saving a soul? Do you know that is soul entrapment they're doing? When they tell you they are saving your soul, do you know the real meaning of salvation? Where they trap souls on the other side? It is not going to heaven. It is called soul entrapment. You don't understand what salvation means. Okay? But they're not going to tell you this in church. But I'm going to tell you.
But tell me this, Renetta. I have many people that I know that will go hook, line, and sinker and say, well, you know, this life doesn't matter. I don't care what I have to go through. I can't wait to get to the other side because I know my soul is saved and I can't wait for the rapture. Now, these are poverty-stricken Christians who have nothing and they don't want anything. They're like sitting ducks, and anything that you aspire to do, to say, take up arms on all levels and protect yourself and build your community and refrain from partaking in the system. They say, oh, no, that's a waste of time anyway. But yet,
because they have been programmed.
Yes,
they have been programmed because
the
Bible tells them to give up this life. Let me ask you a question. Does it make sense that an all-creator God would put you on this earth to tell you give up this earth that he put you on?
When every other species, every other thing living doesn't have that ideology.
Fights to stay here.
Yeah.
Does it make sense that an all-creator God puts you on this plane, then tells you all the gold in the earth I made, all the silver on the earth I made, all the titanium and the wood and the bauxite and the clean water and the this and the that, all of the stuff I made, forget all of the things you can see. But trust me, after you die for me, I'm going to give it all to you back on the other side. That shit makes sense? Shouldn't you trust what you can see as opposed to putting your faith in something you can't see? Let me tell you what the rapture is. I'm about to break down the rapture to you, okay? The rapture is an alien or planetary mass abduction. Let me repeat myself. Your rapture is not you going to meet Jesus. Your rapture is a mass or planetary abduction where they're going to take you off this planet, put you on planets where they eat humans and enslave them. That's your rapture. So good luck.
I swear, when I'm out there driving my bus, there are agents that are sent to me to monitor me, to talk to me. They're strangers that come out of nowhere, and they have the same type of, they come different angles, but it always ends up where they really want to see where my head's at. They know I'm different. And there's a particular young lady right now that makes sure to go out of her way to ride my bus on one trip. And she's, you know, a staunch Christian. And anything, we have light conversations. Sometimes other people get involved in the front too, but I know her main aim is me. And, you know, she has the option of taking many buses, but she'll make sure to take my bus. But she makes sure to drive home that, you know, we're waiting on the rapture ideology and nothing here is worth it. Anything I may reveal to her, not much, you know, but I'll say, hey, I'm planning on doing certain things. Well, why do you want to plan it when it doesn't mean anything, because we're out of here soon anyway. And oh, I can't wait until I die and I'm going to be gone and you all can have this place. And And I'm like, what kind of kook is this?
Let her go. She'll learn where she's going. Isn't it funny that the word rapture sounds like raptor, which is reptile, which is what rules this planet?
You're right.
She'll find out where she's going, and it won't be in heaven. Christian, the earth already sits in the heavens. What heaven are you going to? You've been hoodwinked by the strongest witchcraft on the planet, that book. And that witchcraft is so deep, it is so strong, and it is so powerful. And let me tell you what your book says. There's a reason why in a lot of these Christian churches and a lot of these religious churches, there's so many spies. Because they got that right out of the book of Joshua, where Joshua sent in spies to surveil the land and to monitor people. Isn't it funny that your Bible said that the eyes of God move to and fro in the earth? And this planet, they always talk about Big Brother whose eyes move to and fro in the earth monitoring everything. That's where they got it from.
Just like when they have you preconditioned about Satan's claws, or they say Santa Claus. He knows when you are sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sake. Isn't that conditioning our mind from very young that this white man or this entity is all knowing and all seeing? So if you want to get the goods at that particular time, you better obey. I find that funny. Santa Claus, but Satan's claws. That's the way. So he has us in his grip.
Comfort. They are preparing Christians to be the biggest. They are preparing, not just Christians, Muslims too, to be the biggest blood sacrifice. I'm telling you, you are not dying for these gods, and you are not going to heaven afterwards. You are a human sacrifice. They are preparing you religious people to be sacrifices. And when you die, you are not going to heaven. You are going to be soul trapped. The earth already sits in heaven. What heaven are you going to? They are preparing you religious people. Even what's his name, this dark occultist said, he said in the Third World War, they're going to use the Christians and the Muslims to kill each other and sacrifice them unto their God so they can usher in their God. They're already building the third temple and preparing the blood sacrifice of you Christians and you Muslims. They are already preparing to blood human sacrifice you. They're building the third temple. Trump just issued Jerusalem to be the capital, and the third temple in Jerusalem is being built to prepare the Muslim and the Christian blood sacrifice so Yahweh can come down. Yahweh cannot come down unless there is blood sacrifice. And Yahweh changed from an animal blood sacrifice to human blood sacrifice when he sent you the earth pig. That's the meaning of the name Jesus. When he sent you your Joshua or your Jesus, the earth pig, and he shifted from animal sacrifice to human sacrifice. And the only type of sacrifice that can be made, the people have to be innocent. That is why I keep telling you, black people, they vilify you in the media. All over the world, they're saying black people are the problem. Black people are the problem. So that when they blood sacrifice black people, there is no guilt. They are preparing you because in order for Yahweh to come, when Solomon built that temple, they said Solomon offered up 144,000 animals that was blood sacrifice. They said blood was flowing for miles, and then Yahweh descended. They're building the third temple, and they're preparing is Islam, Muslim blood and Christian blood in order for Yahweh to descend. Yahweh is Lucifer. And he cannot come down unless there is a massive amount of human blood shed. That is who you're worshiping. The Third World War by Albert Pike is the human sacrifice of Muslims and the human sacrifice of Christians. That is why they indoctrinated you to believe when you die in the name of your God, you will go to heaven, so that the sacrifice thinks that it's doing the will of God, so that they don't feel guilt. You are not to want to die for any God. You're supposed to want to live. And in order for Yahweh to descend on that third temple, they have to sacrifice humans for Yahweh to descend. That is what you're worshiping. But because you don't do your homework as to what it is you really believe, you think that when they kill you, you will be saved and in the bosom of Jesus. No, you'll be in a bosom, all right. But it won't be in Jesus. You'll be so fat. Okay? This is why I tell people, black people, go back to the gods your ancestors worshiped. Because when black people worship their ancestral gods, the nations of the earth respected them. And I have historical records of when black people, before Islam and Christianity, when they worshiped their own God, how the Greeks praised black people, the Arabs praised black people, and how all the earth wanted to be black. And then they formed an alliance, and they came in, and they brought you their gods, and you've been slaves ever since, and harvested for our organs and our genetics, and sold down the river for this one, and sold down the river to that one. The Chinese didn't play. When the Chinese got rid of the British, the Chinese went right back to their ancient gods. And look at where China is. When the Indians finally got their independence, the Indians went right back to their gods. And look at where the Indians are. The Indians in India. Okay? I'm telling you people, black people, go back to your ancestral gods. Go back to your... Stop letting them lie and tell you your ancestral gods are devils. Okay? Yahweh is the biggest devil on this planet, masquerading as God. I know I'm going to get flack, and I know many are going to hate me and hate this message, but don't say you haven't been warned.
We're going to put it out there in an uncensored manner, because I ain't chopping out not one bit of it.
Black people, you're going to hate me, but that's okay. That's okay. Some of you will actually listen and go and actually really, what the hell it is I really believe. And you're going to look at the outside sources and the critical objectives of what you really believe. And some of you are going to see the truth. And some of you are going to say, oh, she's crazy, she's this, she's that. You go and become a blood sacrifice unto Yahweh. I'm not. They are building that third temple. And let me tell you something. They are building that third temple, and according to Albert Pike, he said the Third World War, we're going to get Muslims and Christians to kill each other, because in order for Yahweh to descend, as in when Solomon built that temple, blood has to be shed, and it's your blood they're prepared to shed. Don't say I didn't warn you. Because Yahweh can't descend until blood sheds, because that is Yahweh's form of sacrifice. The bloodletting. Yahweh does not like his sacrifice to be burned. He likes his sacrifice for the blood to drain out of the sacrifice. Yahweh's preferential way of proper sacrifice is for the blood to drain out of the life. And some will say, but the Old Testament says, Yahweh says, do not consume the blood. I said, the New Testament, Jesus tells you, drink my blood. And Yahweh does not want you to drink the blood of the entity because it is his liquid. That is his food. Why would he want you to eat and drink his food when you offer it up to him? But the New Testament, Jesus tells you, eat my flesh and drink my blood. I'm just telling you what they're preparing. Believe what you want. I don't mess any God who enslaved my ancestors. I don't mess with. That's just me.
Common sense.
I'm not saying there's no wisdom in that Bible. You can find wisdom anywhere. There is wisdom anywhere and everywhere. What I am saying is this. Black people, these gods are preparing you for slaughter. The gods that you claim are yours are preparing you for slaughter. Be aware of that.
Make sure to check out the boldest blog at lancescurv.com and follow Scurv on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube under Lance Scurv.